Hey, this is Jen Rocks, Georgia, and I'm going to be doing a video on using alcohol inks on rocks. And this is the first time I've really done a video, so please bear with me. At the end of the video, after I posted it, please feel free to ask me any questions that you have, or if I have left anything out. You can private message me however you want to. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Alcohol inks are just something that you can play with because you're working on rocks. Rocks are very porous, and the ink is going to kind of do what it wants once you drop it on there. So you don't have much, playing time with rocks as opposed to like on a sheet of paper or on a tile or anything like that, where you've seen a lot of videos where they use hair dryers and things like that. Once it's dropped or painted on to a porous rock, and you can see these are, plain old white, I think they're called Mexican beach pebbles from Lowe's, but you can tell that they are very, very porous. So once the ink drops onto that, you're done. There is no kind of playing around with them. But with that said, you can either drop inks onto them, you can paint them using a brush, and this is what I'm going to be using today just to give you an example. It's a very small brush. Sorry, I can't get it focused a little bit more than that. But these are basically the tools that I'm going to be using. The two types of inks that I use are Ranger inks, which look like this. And then another brand that I use is called Piñata. These are the two that I have tried and that work the best. You can get Ranger inks at Hobby Lobby and Michael's. They usually come in sets of 3. We also have an art store here in Georgia called Dick Blick, and they will sell the bottles individually. Usually if you get them at Michael's, they come in packs of 3. So you kind of have to pick and choose the colors that you like. But I go to Dick Blick and I get the Piñata. And I'm sure that you probably have art stores in your area that will sell those as well. What I also like to do when using alcohol inks is either use a pair of gloves, or I bought these silicone grips for your fingers on Amazon, and these are twofold. You can use them with alcohol inks because they're silicone and they will wash right off, but you can also use these with hot glue guns and they won't burn your fingers. So that's good to have. Alcohol on your skin is very difficult to get off. So if you get them all over your fingers and they will stain your fingers. Now, what takes off alcohol? Alcohol, plain old alcohol, which is what I've got in here, will take probably 90% of the alcohol off of your skin, but not all of it. So I like to use these, and what you can do is you can hold the rock in these 2 fingers. So it's a great, way to do that without getting alcohol on your fingers. And then this I'm going to use, and I'll show you how to use that. This is just a regular, palette that you can put your alcohol inks in, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a little bit. Now, the good thing about alcohol inks is that you can take the tops off of these. The liquid will come out, but air won't get in, just the way the bottles are designed. So you can have them open while you're working. You don't have to worry about, using one and putting the top back on because they won't dry out. Now, for inks like these Piñatas that have gold and silver and copper and whatnot in them, they're going to have metal balls in them. You do need to shake these up. These regular colored ones, you don't have to shake up. It's just pure, colored alcohol. But these are going to be, part liquid, part gold. So you are going to have to shake them up, and you'll hear the ball in there. Just give them a good shake. This is white. I absolutely love white, and you'll see what you can do with it. It does not have a ball in it, but I make sure that I shake it up as well. So what I did was I chose colors that are good for kind of Easter. Right now we're a little bit early, but I like these colors, just a rainbow of colors. the sky is the limit, really, when it comes to buying alcohol inks. As you can see, I have kind of many different colors. These are wonderful if you end up collecting alcohol inks, or even like glitter glues and whatnot. You can buy these from scrapbook.com, and they hold these little bottles. I generally store them like this, upright, except for the ones that have gold and whatnot in there. They have a wider spout to them, if you will, and they won't necessarily dry out, but the liquid in them will get kind of caked up and clog in kind of this area here. So I store those on the side, which is how you see these, and then they won't clog up. So it's great. So here I am working with these different colors of alcohol ink, and I've got the tops open and I'm not worried about it. So here we go. All right, so once you have your alcohol inks open and ready to go, I'm going to show a couple techniques here. You can play around with them as much as you want. I will tell you that you can use the same colors over and over again, and the effect that they have on the rock is going to be completely different. You have some control kind of over where you either drop them or where you draw stripes, which is kind of what I'm going to do. I will say one thing, because rocks are porous, if you put them on the rock, they dry for a few seconds, and then you try and drop another color onto the rock, it's going to make what I would call a splotch. You have to work very, very quickly, and I don't like those splotches that get in there. There's really nothing you can do. So I've got these two rocks here that I am going to work with, like two kind of separate techniques. And then I will show you this rock here, which I'm going to kind of mess up on, and you can see what that's going to look like. This little grass looking thing that I'm using is one of those baby bottle holders, and I got it on Facebook Marketplace for, I think, $10. This is fantastic for using your alcohol inks. As you can see, the alcohol kind of drips down into a plate underneath. What it does is it gets the rock off of a flat surface, so everything can kind of drip down the sides. And then you don't have to worry about it looking really, you know, mottled and whatnot at the bottom. So I love this. It drips down. Once I drip them down, and it's totally up to you, but I put them in front of a fan to dry them because it's such a porous surface. They may stay wet for a little while, especially as it drips down to the bottom. So I will take this whole thing and put it in front of a, you know, a small fan on my desk, and it makes them dry a lot quicker. So the first one that I'm going to do is this one, and what I'm going to do is kind of stripes on it. And again, it is all up to you what you design, what colors you use, but basically I'm just going to do stripes on this one, and then I'll do drops onto this one. So I've got my colors here. You don't have to necessarily start somewhere, but I just kind of, you know, go like this. Don't worry if you miss a space, you can kind of go back, but as you do them, they will kind of drip down into one another. If you're a perfectionist, you got to kind of give that part up, because these rocks and these inks are going to do whatever they want to do. They're going to move, they're going to bleed down, as you see there. You just kind of got to give that part up. You just got to let it go, let the rock do what it's going to. The whole point is that you're doing color. People love color. If you sell these or you put them out, you know, in a park or however you know, love to do your rocks, the whole point is just to put color there out in the world. People love color. They're drawn to it. It makes them happy. And so just play. These are fun. These are kind of going back to kindergarten and just playing and seeing what you can create. And it's a lot of fun. You just never, never, never know what you're going to come up with. So I'm just kind of going back over these just a little bit, but you see it just does its own thing. You see how it's kind of dripped down. I can go back and kind of do the sides a little bit if I've missed some areas, but otherwise there it is. And I'm just, for right now, I'm gonna leave it alone. It's fun. It's fun. And then I've got my finger things on. I'm missing one here, but you know, then I can pick it up and move it to the back and get my next one and just have fun. This time I'm gonna do a drop, and I'm gonna put a little bit more under here. This one I'm just gonna do drops. So again, you just drop down wherever you want to. Just play. You can do it around. See, just creating the colors again. You know, you're going back to kindergarten where your colors will mix, you know, and turn into a different color. And it kind of turns out really neat. Move your stone around, see some areas maybe where you miss some. And again, the stone is going to do what it wants to do. As you can see here, you know, the color kind of mixed and it's kind of a brown color. There's nothing you can do about that. Same with that there. You know, again, the stone is going to do what it wants to do. If you're painting with a paintbrush, you can get it a little bit more precise, and that is something that you can do. But for the most part, the stone's going to do what it wants to do because it's so porous. Now this one will play with just a little bit, and I will do the same thing. I'll just kind of do some drops. And then we're going to let it dry for a minute. Maybe we won't do as many colors. You don't have to cover all the white. If you just want to play with it, you like some white in there. Again, there's no right or wrong to this. If you are a perfectionist, though, this might drive you this might drive you a little bit crazy because you're not going to have perfect control over, you know, the color. As you can see here, I accidentally dripped some there. It will, you know, it will change the color. If you accidentally drip and you didn't want to do that, there's nothing that you can do. It's basically going to look how it wants to look. So I'm going to let this dry for just a minute, and then I'll show you what'll happen if you try to change it. So I'm going to show you a line technique. I've already added my gold. Now I'm adding some of the white. And then I'm going to mix that around. I'm going to take my stone and I'm going to paint just a white line in between each color. Again, you can be as perfect as you want with this, or you can be as sloppy. It really doesn't matter. I'm just kind of playing with this today. Again, people won't care. They really won't care when you put something out. It's just fun, and you can see how I'm doing these lines. Not being perfect with it, but it kind of gives it some separation between the colors. It makes it look a little different. And the colors will bleed. That's okay. I feel like I'm talking like Mr. Rogers. It's okay. It's all right. What you do matters. And you're doing, you know, some fun stuff for others, so it's a great thing. So what you can do is let this dry, and then we're going to put some gold on it. But you'll see how it gives it some separation. It's just something to play with. And I'll have extra leftover alcohol inks that I'll use on another rock. I have to use it right away, obviously, but as you can see, that's what it looks like. So it's kind of neat. So I'm going to let this dry for a minute, and we'll come back. And one thing that I didn't mention that I should have is that these are obviously alcohol inks, and they have a smell to them. If you are very sensitive to smells, and definitely you need to be careful with breathing in. It's just alcohol, but you know, breathing in chemicals, if you will. Make sure that you use a respirator, and especially do it in a well ventilated area. I have a fan going on my desk all the time. Once the alcohol sinks into the rock, you shouldn't smell it anymore. But, you know, definitely be careful with your lung health and use a respirator. Do it in a well ventilated area, or use a fan, have a fan going, so that you'll be more comfortable. So this one is dried a little bit, and now I'm gonna add some gold. What the white does is it kind of takes off a little bit of the color underneath. So that you can see any gold or copper or any silver, whatever color you want to use, shows up a little bit more. And again, it'll dip down or drip down too. Just have fun. I'm gonna do a little bit more gold over here and just play with it. I want to get some more color and saturation over here. So I'm just going back over it. So you can see, far from perfect, but it is going to look really cool when it dries and when I resin it, because you're just going to have all those fun colors in there with a little bit of gold that'll make it pop. And again, it's far from perfect, but it's fun, and I had fun, so enjoy. Just enjoy playing around, doing different things with it. Again, you can use these same exact colors, and every single time what you create will be totally different. It'll look totally different. So there you go. And once this dries, we'll talk a little bit more, and I'll tell you how I seal it. So these are the rocks that we worked on, these three. I went back and added some white and then gold splotches on top of that one. This is the gold that has all the lines in it. The one that I quote unquote did the mess up with the splotch on the side, I just dripped some gold over it and you can't see. And then this is the one that I did. I just went back and used the gold alcohol ink that I had in the well, so I wouldn't waste it, and I just did another rock. So that's what that one looks like there. So two things. If you do a rock and all the colors become muddy and you don't like the way it looks, don't throw it away. Just paint over it, use that rock. I've gotten frustrated before and just thrown the rock away, but you don't have to do that. You can just paint right over it. You can't re-alcohol over it, obviously, because it's soaked down into the rock, but just paint it and make it into something else. And then finally, if you're gonna write words on top of alcohol ink, I would strongly suggest that you spray these with a glossy sealant. You can use a matte as well, but I like glossy, a sealant on them. Do it a couple of times, let it dry thoroughly, and then write. Because what's gonna happen is if you use a white or a light ink on top of these, it's gonna soak down into that alcohol ink, and then you won't be able to see it. It'll be invisible. So spray it a couple times, let it dry thoroughly, and then you can paint whatever you want. You can write whatever you want on these, and the ink will stay on top of that sealant instead of soaking down in. And then you can finish them off however you want, whether they be resin, which is what I use, or another, couple coats of a spray sealant, and then you are ready to go. Again, the sky is the limit. However you want to create, play around with it, you'll find that you can do all kinds of things with these. If you use a metallic alcohol ink on top of things, you can see these are kind of shiny. They are still wet. So let that gold or that metallic ink dry thoroughly before you spray a sealant on it. Just give it an extra hour or so to dry and to soak down into the stone. So again, after watching this, you probably have other questions or things that I didn't go over. Feel free to, message me or, put a comment in there. If I've missed something, I'll be happy to answer your questions. And I hope this gives you a little taste of beginners alcohol inks on rocks. Thanks so much. Have a great day.